Rubber game of the series. What more could you ask for than two pitchers whose careers have been inexorably linked? Not the first time Harvey and Strasburg have gotten together.
Guys, you hearing this chant right now? It's Harvey's better. Pretty creative.
I want to know how they came up with that and transmitted that to everybody. Yes, to get them on the same note. It's pretty good.
At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Washington Nationals. Have a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you. Keith Hernandez joins us in just a moment as the Mets and Nationals play the rubber game of their three-game series. And 3 years ago, when Matt Harvey and Steven Strasburg got together here at Citi Field, Harvey was better. It's not been the case lately. Matt Harvey is struggling right now. The question is, what does he need to do tonight to get himself out of the doldrums?
Well, I think what he needs to do tonight, he really has been locked in on feeling that the ball's not leaving his hand right. The mechanics aren't correct. I think he's done all the work you can do in between starts. Really what you have to do when you get on the mound is done what he's done his entire life, and that is just compete. That's the way he's always been the best.
On the other hand, Steven Strasburg has been magnificent. He's 6-0 to start the season, hasn't lost since early last September. He's added a slider this year as a fourth pitch. So if you're a Met hitter, how do you approach Strasburg tonight?
Well, I think in the old days, before a lot of the video, he's developed this cutter that he's throwing to right-handers and left-handers that has been very effective, a fourth pitch for him. In the old days, it'd be to go around the league once, no one would know about it. But I think with video today, I'm sure the players are prepared for it, but obviously he's 6-0 and off to a terrific start. So this is just a wonderful matchup right here. Hopefully Matt Harvey's up to it, and it's a good pitcher's duel.
And you look at Strasburg a couple of years after his Tommy John surgery, he was struggling as well. Now he's hit his stride. People's United Bank brings you tonight's starters' numbers against the opposition. Matt Harvey has great career numbers against the Nats despite a stumble last September, and the Mets have had very little fortune against Strasburg, although they were able to get him a no decision in that big series in D.C. last time they faced him. Mets and Nats, Harvey and Strasburg, all the action on SNY. by Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. By the Lexus NX Turbo and Hybrid, go beyond utility. By ESPN Radio, listen to Alan Hahn and Rick DiPietro weekdays at noon on 98.7 ESPN. By National Car Rental, go national, go like a pro. And by Fidelis Care, quality health coverage, it's our mission. Get to Citi Field this Friday, May 20th for Free Shirt Friday. Hey, that's tomorrow. The Mets face the Brewers at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a T-shirt featuring the Mets pitching staff etched into Mount Rushmore, courtesy of Goya. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. Now time for greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. It's been a rough go for Giancarlo Stanton. Went 0 for 10 with 9 strikeouts in their just completed series against the Phillies. No Atlanta Braves pitcher with 2 wins, but Brian Snitker has 1, his first as a manager last night for the Braves in their win over the Pirates. And the Phillies, the surprise of baseball this year, 7 games over 500 after beating the Marlins yesterday. They are just a half game out of first place in the National League East. Daniel Murphy's been on a roll, but there are some places you shouldn't hit the ball at Citi Field, like the glove of Juan Lagares, where extra base hits go to die. Start of the year, and by all rights his most important to date, as he looks to get the Mets, who have been slumping, losing 5 of 6, the rubber game of this 3-game series with the first place Nats. And here's the lineup he'll face for Washington tonight, brought to you by Hyundai. Really the same unit that Dusty Baker's run out there all 3 games. Wilson Ramos, who sat last night, back in there. Otherwise the same starters for the Nats, who are 24 and 16.
Well, Matt loves pitching at Citi Field. 2.19 ERA in his career. 73 big league starts. His record stands at 28 and 23.
And there's the Metropolitan defense, brought to you by Lexus. Conforto is back in the lineup with the right-hander out there. Cespedes back to center field. Lucas Duda, little 2-day sabbatical with the sore back. He's back teaching in class at first base. And Milwaukee behind the plate.
Ronnie, what is going through his mind right now?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, he's after that Colorado game, it was kind of like rock bottom for him as far as emotionally talking to the media. So you got to kind of pick yourself up. You know, you're not judged in your baseball career by your amazing early moments. You're judged by when you hit rock bottom, how you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and figure it out. This could be a nice start for that to happen.
Ben Revere will lead things off against Harvey. Revere, who has his own struggles to worry about. 5 for 52 to start the season. 1 for 9 in this series. And Matt Harvey's first pitch of the night is a fastball in for a strike, and we're underway.
And the corner's in. Revere is a threat to put one down, try to beat it out. Both corners in.
Always a threat, probably more so now when he's struggling so mightily. And Harvey misses inside at 94, a ball and a strike. And that's about where Harvey's fastball has averaged out this year. He's had some games where he was more 95, 96, some where he's been more 91, 92. And a broken bat liner right at Cabrera for the first out of the night. So Revere is retired. And now Jason Worth, who tomorrow will celebrate his 37th birthday. Last night had himself quite a night. He was on base 5 times in a row, a single, a double, and 3 walks on a night that Met pitchers walked 11. Quite out of character. Even with that night, the Met pitching staff has still issued the fewest walks of any staff in the National League.
And hit 2 batters also. In Strasburg.
Worth takes a strike.
We always talk about how fast the velocity of pitchers throwing. I always find it interesting when there's no wavering off that velocity. Every fastball's been at 94 miles an hour. That to me is interesting. It seems like everything is in a line. We've seen some games where one's 91, one's 95.
His first slider out of the strike zone, a ball and a strike to Worth with Bryce Harper on deck.
It's a good sharp slider. That's what I like. But he's not throwing it for a strike, but at least he's getting some bite on it early.
2 starts back in San Diego was probably the most encouraging start Matt has thrown this year. He struck out 10 batters in 6 innings in that game. It really looked like he had turned the corner. And, you know, some people want to take the Colorado game and throw it out because it was Coors Field, first time he'd ever pitched there, but he obviously didn't take it that way. 2-2 coming, and Worth fouls it back at 96.
You know, guys, when you have a good start and you feel like you're working your way back to where you want to be, you're disappointed when you can't put 2 or 3 in a row. I think that's where his feeling in Colorado stood.
Full count to Worth.
Harvey in 30. This is his 39th start here at Citi Field. 13 and 10 with a 2.19 Ernie.
Those numbers don't really mesh.
And they don't, yep.
He's had a lot of games here where he's pitched well and not got much support.
Correct.
3-2, and the curveball sits high for ball 4, and Harvey issues a 1-out walk.
So choice there. 3-2 curveball with Harper coming up next with 94 Cheddar.
I just feel you know, throw the fastball away and try to get a rhythm going.
Well, this has been the reaction to Harper this entire series, and you see the numbers there at the bottom, and those are stark. Matt Harvey has owned Bryce Harper over the course of their respective careers. 0 for 20 with 7 strikeouts.
Most important part of that stat, Harper knows that stat.
First game of the series, Syndergaard dominated Harper. Last night, Harper walked 4 times, went 0 for 1. And it's up and away for ball 1. Harper starts the night with 45 walks through the Nationals' first 40 games. 28 walks in his last 12 games. That's hit in the air to shallow right. Angling in is Granderson. And he gets there for the second out. So Harper's retired.
Got him with the changeup there.
See the release by Harvey with all those fingers on the ball. You know it's a changeup right away. Only one who doesn't know is Harper, who had a good swing at it, but just a little out front.
Got it out enough. You can see out in front, see the top hand come over off the end of the bat. So the pitch was designed to get him out in front. It was successful.
So now Daniel Murphy, who drove in 2 runs last night in the Nationals' 7-1 win, still leads the National League in batting at .395, 2 for 7 in this series.
All the Mets pitchers before the game today had a little PFP, and part of it was working on their moves to first base.
Harvey's given up 5 stolen bases this year in 7 tries. Worth not the base stealer that he once might have been. Yeah, first pitch curveball to Murphy for a strike.
Murph thought that pitch was high. We'll let the umpire know. We've seen that before.
We'll definitely ask.
James Hoy is calling the balls and strikes tonight, and Murph is on a first-name basis with every umpire.
Not the umpire's first choice, but
well, they tend to talk after just about every pitch. At least somebody does.
Worth must have a big lead over there, because there's been numerous throws the last few days to first base when he's there.
And he has spent a lot of time at first base. Worth last night walking 3 times. First time he'd done that in a couple of years. And Murphy fouls back the fastball, and it's 0-2.
Big rip right there. Murph trying to go downtown there. This is something we didn't see from Daniel until last season late. Taking a swing for the downs.
He's talked about moving up on the plate, getting more out of the crouch than he used to. And that enhanced his power late last year.
And he's deep in the box there. Very, very, very widespread. Look at that back foot.
0-2 from Harvey. And Murphy fouls it away. 96 from Matt. So Matt has topped out at 96 a couple of times in this first inning.
Murph, over the years, we've seen enough of him, so we can have a scouting report on him. And you get ahead of him, and you throw up a good hard slider like Syndergaard when he struck out Harper in a down and in. You can do it. You can do it to Murph too. He'll chase. It's a tough pitch to lay off.
Year in, year out, one of the toughest hitters to strike out in the National League. Worth is running. The curveball hit in the air to center field. Cespedes going back to the warning track, and it's out of here. Murphy hits it over the center field fence. A 2-run homer, his 6th of the year, on an 0-2 curveball from Matt Harvey. Murphy takes him deep, and it's 2-0 Washington.
Well, I had an account. It's bounced one as I suggested, and it's not that easy. But you can see it's just sitting there like a helicopter.
big dot on it.
Hovering, hovering. Here comes the surface-to-air missile there. So Murph's a good hitter. He got a cripple pitch, and that's all she wrote.
First home run the Nationals have hit in this series, and it comes in Murphy's first ever at bat against Harvey on an 0-2 pitch.
So you can talk about mechanics all you want, but it's execution of the pitch. 0-2 curveball in the middle of the plate.
Oh,
and Harvey breaks off the delivery.
Did you see Zimmerman? He swung. Strike two.
Does it count if you don't throw the ball? So an early dent in the armor for Harvey when he was trying to get off to a fast start. Throws one by Zimmerman, and he's again ahead 0-2.
This is supposed to be a four-seamer, but has more of a two-seamer run inside.
That's now allowed 5 home runs this season in 46 innings. That pitching staff has allowed the fewest home runs of any staff in the league. That was just the 25th in 40 games. But a damaging one early.
That's pulled foul. Well, Murph was having himself a good series. Now he's having a better one.
Yeah.
Don't forget, these two teams will get together again for 3 games starting Monday in D.C. And Harvey is scheduled to make a start in that series as well. Zimmerman fouls it back.
Zimmerman's got a real long swing up there. That's why he's struggling.
You notice, though, all the fastballs are about belt high in this first inning. Maybe this one a little above. That's why the foul ball.
Harvey over 20 pitches in this opening inning. And he strikes out Zimmerman with a slider to end the inning. But damage done. Daniel Murphy's 2-run homer takes Steven Strasburg to a 2-0 lead as he takes them out. Face brought to you by Geico. Lucas Duda back in after missing a couple of games with a sore back. Curtis Granderson leads off against Strasburg and takes a strike.
We saw the numbers on Strasburg before. Perfect 6-0 so far. And we talked about Harvey, who's 28 wins through 73 starts, 140 starts for Strasburg, 60 wins.
The last time an Expos/Nationals pitcher, starting pitcher, started 6-0. Pedro Martinez, 1997, when he began 8-0 for the Expos. Granderson fouls it back 1-2. Strasburg has not lost a game since early September last year. He's 9-0 in his last 12 starts going back to last year with a 2.14 ERA. This has been the best winning stretch of his career.
There's the new, that's that cutter that he's added to his arsenal.
Let's see, ahead in the count. What is he doing? Bouncing the breaking ball, trying to get Granderson to fish. Okay, he didn't. You got to bounce it after the plate, not before the plate.
Curtis hitting .205 coming into the game, yet another year back to back. And you're 38 games in. This is a tough start. He's leading off. He's only got a .297 on base percentage. It's been a struggle for Curtis.
Led off the game with a home run the first game of the series on Tuesday night. And Strasburg misses away at 97, full count. David Wright on deck, then Michael Conforto as the Mets try and strike back after Murphy's opening salvo. And Granderson goes down on the high fastball, and Strasburg has a strikeout to start his night.
High gas. So many hitters today, I'm sorry, Ronnie, are low ball hitters that this upstairs gas, they can't catch up to it. And the Coors Light defense for the Nationals, the veterans out there in that outfield, formed MVP on the right, last year's MVP in Bryce Harper. The infield, you know, when you play the good teams, there's not too much moving around. They got good, solid players out there. They play every day. Wilson Ramos got an off day yesterday. And there's the two prior pitchers, starting pitchers, one a winner, one a loser.
Couldn't our guys do a little photoshopping on Danny Espinosa? don't we have that talent in the truck?
Give him an S&Y shave. Is that what you're saying?
David Wright, who sat out on Tuesday night, last night went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts as the strikeouts continue to mount, 47 of them in his first 113 at bats of the season. An alarming rate of strikeouts for David. And Strasburg gets ahead of him 1-2.
Sorry, Keith, but sometimes pitching is about choices. In the first inning, Matt Harvey had a 3-2 count. He chose to throw a curveball to Worth. What did Strasburg do against Granderson? 3-2. He just went with his good cheese.
And what they'd like to do with David ahead in the count, come inside. What I've seen so far from this new cutter, which to me is more like a slider. It's a pretty nice pitch, right?
Yeah. Fastball in. How about if he throws the curveball right at him? That's been what you've seen a lot.
Change up, why? I wouldn't throw a change up to David if it put a gun at my head. I don't mean that literally.
There might be some offers. Michael Conforto on deck. And David foul tips the fastball, and he's down on strikes. Back-to-back strikeouts for Strasburg. Well, coming into the night, those are the strikeout leaders in the National League. And David hasn't had as many at-bats as most of those guys.
Story also has the most total bases, so he's balancing out those strikeouts.
And Chris Carter hit his 12th home run today, and Stanton is Stanton. But it's been, I mean, it's alarming what has gone on with David recently.
This game will get you talking to yourself.
Here's Conforto, couldn't stop the swing, and Strasburg dealing at 98. Conforto hit a home run in the opening game of the series. Came off the bench last night as a pinch hitter, grounded out with the bases loaded in the 7th. And there's that slider from Strasburg, and he gets ahead 0-2.
You throw it right in on the left-hander's hands. That's a perfect spot. Belt high.
Yep. That's a cutter right there.
Well, he's throwing it 92, 93 miles an hour.
Well, it sets up the outside part of the plate. Garrett, the Montreal Expo rotation, when Carter was calling the game, they had Charlie Lee, Steve Rogers, all through that cutter inside. Gullickson. There's the outside corner opening up for him.
Strasburg strikes out the side in the opening inning. An impressive beginning for Steven Strasburg. He gets Conforto with a changeup. 2-0 Nats after 1.
Perfect.
You know, it's really been a 50-50 proposition so far for Harvey. He'll throw some real good ones. Change up to Harper and then a good slider to Zimmerman. But those are bookended around that hanging curveball in the 0-2 count to Daniel Murphy. And I mean that. It's been kind of a 50-50 proposition. One good, one bad. That percentage has got to get much better.
Anthony Rendon starts the second against Harvey.
It is just been Matt's inconsistency that's been his demon.
Generally, his pattern has been that he's been fine early in games and then struggled in the middle of games. Toward the middle of the diamond, and Cabrera flashes over. One pitch and one out for Harvey in the second. Late in games has not existed yet for Harvey. He's yet to throw a pitch in the seventh inning. And that's as alarming as anything. This is a guy who, in his last start last season in Game 5 of the World Series, took it into the ninth.
The fourth, fifth, and the sixth innings have been the difficult innings. And his release point so far in the game has been fine. In the first inning, you know, his release point to me is a little different than it was a couple of seasons ago. It might be a little higher than it was in 2013, but when you have a new arm, sometimes that happens.
Harvey facing Wilson Ramos, who's 1 for 5 in the series, and takes a strike. It's odd to me that the conversation has been about Harvey having a higher arm angle, because normally when a pitcher struggles, it's often because his arm angle's dropping.
Well, if your arm angle drops, a lot of times it's because good slider there.
That's when you need to throw to Murph.
That's right. If your arm angle drops, it's because you have some weakness in your arm. His certainly is not the weakness. He's definitely on top of the ball. But I don't know if it's made it a better slider. It just might be a different slider than it was a couple seasons ago.
Strike 3 called. He picks off the inside corner to Ramos. Second strikeout from that.
Boy, that was a good sequence of pitches, wasn't it? Paint on the outside corner, strike 1. Hard slider down out of the strike zone, and Paint inside corner.
Ronnie, let me ask you, do pitchers ever unconsciously raise their arm angle trying to generate more velocity?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that if I had a guy, you know, 0-2, 1-2 guy on third base, I needed a strikeout, I would sometimes elevate it, Gary. That's the best way I would be able to get more velocity on the baseball. But I would only do it once or twice a game when I needed it.
Here's Denny Espinosa trying to drag a bunt, gets it past the mound, and he'll beat it out easily. Now the key is getting it past the pitcher, particularly with the second baseman playing deep, and that's exactly what Espinosa did.
No, Espinosa is not having a terrific year. Not a great hitter, but this gets the line moving. Well, we're playing Walker, that you're telling him here, why not? You got the pitcher behind you, now you've rotated the order.
And this is the first time I've seen a hitter with a shift, instead of bunting it, he punched at it. And that's what you're supposed to do. Put some velocity on that ball and get it out there past the pitcher.
I just don't understand why you'd want to play your second. Not because they bunted, but with a hitter like Espinosa, why are you playing him out in the outfield? I don't get it.
Well, then you're also vulnerable to the slow ground ball, because you know, Espinosa's
he's not Rogers Hornsby, for crying out loud.
He can run a little bit. Strasburg lifetime. .151 hitter.
See in the second inning, don't you, that Matt consciously trying to make sure that breaking ball is down. Strasburg can hit a little bit. Got some power too.
Cabrera will go to first with it, and that retires the side. A bunt hit and one left. Still 2-0 Washington. 1986 World Championship on Friday, May 27th through Sunday, May 29th, when the Mets take on the Dodgers. Great promotions highlight the entire weekend, including a special pregame on-field ceremony Saturday night beginning at 6:15 p.m. presented by Verizon. For tickets, visit Mets.com/1986. Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean, Crisp Coors Light. Yoenis Cespedes last night hit his 30th home run as a Met. Did it in 92 games, shattering the old mark of 111 games set by Dave Kingman. So he got there 19 games earlier than anybody else had. 30 home runs as a Met.
400th RBI also on that home run.
Cespedes leading the National League in slugging percentage, starting the night with that .656 mark. He has been invaluable in an offense that frankly has been struggling. Mets, with their 1 run last night, have now fallen below 4 runs per game for the season.
They tore it up up to that last homestand and went on that road trip, boy, and lost it. It's a very, very funny game, full of ebbs and flows.
But I think when you're as reliant on the home run as the Mets are, I think that's what naturally happens. That when you hit home runs, you get big offense, and when you don't, and you're not driving in runs otherwise, there's not much happening.
Well, it depends on the kind of home run hitters you have. What you have in the lineup is guys with a lot of pop, but you also have guys who are very streaky, and you have guys that swing and miss, and that's the combination that can put you in the spin they're in right now.
Cespedes slams one foul down the right side, but you know, the Mets as a team, when they put together opportunities, they're not driving in runs. I mean, they're hitting .208 with runners in scoring position, so that makes runs without home runs hard to come by. Lucas Duda on deck, then Neil Walker for the Mets in the second. And Cespedes takes it high, and that's the 3rd full count for Strasburg in the first 4 batters. Over off his pitch count in a hurry. Cespedes been walking a little bit more this year. He laces that one into left field for a leadoff hit.
He's a hitter.
3-2 slider from Strasburg, stays in the middle of the plate, and Cespedes doesn't miss it.
Lucky he didn't got a little out in front. This was a pitch to drive. Not that bad.
So the Mets have their first base runner of the night after Strasburg struck out the side in the first. And here's Duda, who hasn't played since Sunday in Colorado when he went 0 for 4. Takes a curveball for a strike. Lucas's on base percentage is dipped below 300. He's walking far less than he has in the past.
Close to the plate, deep in the box.
Good changeup by Strasburg, 0-2.
Deep in the box, close to the plate. Some of the same things that Kevin Long talked to Daniel Murphy about last season.
Neil Walker waiting on deck. And Duda goes down on strikes. 4 outs, 4 strikeouts for Steven Strasburg.
Well, he has great motion with that changeup. It looks like he's going to throw 97 and pulls the string.
And they called a foul tip? No, he did not. He did not foul tip it, I don't think.
Well, even if he
doesn't
foul
matter
tip
because Ramos caught it.
Yeah.
Ball never hit the ground, so it's a moot point whether he tipped it or not.
So there should be no argument here.
First of all, did he look like he tipped it?
No, let's see.
Nope.
Oh, no way.
And even if he did, Ramos caught it before it hit the ground.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter. Terry continues to discuss it with James Hoy, the home plate umpire, and finally gets convinced. Is that a little gamesmanship to try and knock Strasburg out of his rhythm? Because it didn't make any sense otherwise.
I'm not thinking that.
You see your umpiring crew tonight. Jim Joyce, the crew chief, working out at second base. Marvin Hudson, who had a good plate last night, working at third. Here's Neil Walker, hitless in his last 10 at bats. His numbers have cooled down after his hot start. Cespedes at first and 1 out. And Walker lines one into right field. Murphy deked Cespedes. That is a perfect Murph deke. He does it a lot. It rarely works. That time it actually did work.
Well, Cespedes wasn't going to go first to third on this one anyway.
But he was fooled.
He stopped before Murphy even made the fake. Wasn't sure it was going to be caught, and the fake made him come back. But
that's a classic part of Murph's game. He loves doing that.
I know he loves doing it. My blood's boiling watching it, to tell you the truth.
Here's that dribble Cabrera. Well, I know Murph got a kick out of it. Cabrera 2 for 8 in this series. And he takes a strike. Ball he was turning away from, and Hoy said it was on the inside corner.
wants it away. It's down the middle. And to me, that's a strike. I know they don't call it. It's right down the middle. It's a good pitch to hit. And Cabrera on top of that dish. He's inviting that cutter in. I think Strasburg likes his changeup early, Ronnie.
Good call, Keith.
You know, he's
especially
got it
against the left-handers.
Yep. He likes it. It feels good in his hand.
Cabrera, who was briefly a national 2 years ago, facing Strasburg for the first time. Cespedes at second, Walker at first, and 1 out. And a pickoff trying Cespedes, who still is not sliding. Able to go back in standing.
He's close enough to the back there, though.
But I mean, it's been a month now since he went into the stands and hurt his thigh, and then he re-aggravated it a week later. He has not slid since.
Well, if he keeps hitting the way he's hitting, I don't want him to slide the rest of the year.
Well, doing a lot of slow running. And now he's trying to steal third, and it's hit toward the middle, a base hit. Cespedes has to get up and head on in. Walker goes to third. Cabrera with an RBI single, and the Mets are on the board. It's now 2-1 Washington.
He was on the run here, and he knows that he didn't know where the contact was. Tough, let him know right away. Nicely done, Timmy. And Walker on the backside, aggressively running the bases. He has no idea where the ball's hit.
So 3 hits in the inning against Strasburg have produced a run.
And Cabrera continues to produce. He's been struggling a little bit like everybody else, but he's been a very consistent player.
Is the bigger piece there that Cespedes has been watching the Mets offense and decided 2 runs down to be overly aggressive and make something happen?
Now Plawecki will try and get that tying run in from third. Kevin is 3 for 5 this year, getting a runner in from third with less than 2 out. Walker at third, Cabrera at first. And Plawecki gets tied up. Did he go? He went around. Chad Fairchild with the call, 0-1.
Starts it on the inside corner, runs it in under his hands.
I didn't think he swung there. Is that a word, swung?
Yes.
Okay, not swang is not the word.
That's
right. We don't want to say that.
Only for Dizzy Dean was that a word.
Only for Dizzy Dean, you're right. This is how they've been attacking Plawecki, Gary Ron, is establishing inside on him and then going away.
He had a good swing on the slider, though, I thought.
Strasburg's already struck out 4. He could use a strikeout here. Matt Harvey standing on deck.
Throw over. Ramos gave the thumb, which is the throw over in today's game.
He's Zimmerman, you got to catch that ball. There's a runner on third. With the camouflage on the catcher.
Fastball in. It's the right pitch, 0-2. If you miss inside.
In the air to right. Tagging at third is Walker. Not very deep, and Harper's got a good arm. And he's not going to try it. Walker stays at third. 2 out.
On the run, moving in, all of his momentum coming forward with one of the strong arms in Major League Baseball. No chance. You can get some help on your third base coach in that play, but really, if you're a veteran, you can just make your own call. When you need help on a fly ball down the left field line, but in right field, center field, you can make your own choice.
What do you think about the idea of trying to make something happen when the pitcher's coming up next and you just made the second out? In other words, just forcing Harper to make a good throw, figuring that the pitcher is going to make the third out anyway.
It's a good question, but he was so shallow.
Too shallow. I don't care if you have Bullet Bob Hayes over there at third base. You know, I don't send him.
Harvey 2 for 10 this year. Takes a slider off the plate. 1-1.
And so all the momentum's coming forward here. So it's going to be a very strong throw. Plus he's shallow. The only flaw in the play is, nice play by Ramos keeping that ball in front, is that, you know, when you're an outfielder, you're taught to catch on your throwing side. So in that case, Harper caught on his glove side, and it takes a little longer to bring the ball around if you're going to really be critical and talk fundies.
First fundies of the year, by the way.
Is that even possible? A quarter of the way into the season?
That's right. We are a quarter away into the season.
2-2 now to Harvey. "20 pitches in the inning now for Strasburg. That's a scored. A run on 3 hits. Harvey trying to get that tying run home from third with 2 out. Matt looking for his first run batted into the season. And he takes strike 3 call. 97 from Strasburg. Froze him. 5th strikeout for Strasburg, but the Mets get a run back. Yoenis Cespedes with a leadoff hit. Walker moved to his second, and Cabrera brought him home. 2-1 Washington after 2. We're coming up for Washington, and let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Gary, it is SNY Play Ball Week here, and 500 kids are out here for SNY's Play Ball Week. That SNY was able to get them some tickets to tonight's game, and I'm here with Walter Wargowski from Wallington Little League in New Jersey. Walter, for you guys, I know you have about 75 kids here. Some of them have never been to a Major League Baseball game before. What does a night like this mean to them?
It's a great opportunity for our team and our players to see how the professional players really put it on.
When you look at SNY's Play Ball program and what type of help it gives leagues like yours, how important is that to your league?
It's great. It gives us the exposure. It shows them what the game is really about on a major league level, and maybe one day it'll inspire a kid to go that far.
Thanks so much, Walter. Appreciate it
very much.
Gary, these kids are really excited. They're seeing a good one, Strasburg Harvey.
I can hear that they're very excited.
Very.
Certainly a lot of enthusiasm in that section. Thanks, Steve. Ben Revere broke his bat, lined out to short his first time up, and he lines this one over short, and he's got himself a base hit. So Revere leads off the third with only his 6th hit of the season.
Fastball up.
Well, when you watch Revere, that fastball deliveries, you can tell him he's, well, it's strange because it's a little different on the right, but still the ball is in front of his head. He's releasing it nicely, but the ball's been up. The fastball's been up for the first 3 innings.
So a leadoff base runner against Matt. And now Jason Worth, who's now been on base 6 straight times. 5 last night, and then he walked his first time up tonight.
Good cut.
That's what I was saying before. I said PFP, I should explain. Pitchers fielding practice, just working on some throws over, trying to be a little quicker to first base.
I thought that was tape from spring training.
Yeah, right. They do a lot of that, you know, half dozen times a year.
Let me ask you a question. You're out there as a group. Guys are taking turns making throws to first. How much do you actually gain from that?
I don't think you gain a lot, to tell you the truth, because you're not throwing the way you would throw in a game, because you're trying to protect your arm if you're a reliever, and if you're a starter, you either threw the day before or you're throwing in the day later or the next couple of days. So you can, the footwork I think you can work on, but as far as the throws are concerned, it usually is kind of half-hearted like that.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Right, and you know
that's
what?
why I asked.
As a first baseman, you get a little upset because, you know, hey, I got to play 162 and I got to come out here and catch pickoffs.
That's why Eric's
That's why
there.
Campbell's taking the throws and not Duda.
Oh, the caddy.
Nice block by Plawecki.
But I do have to say that's been done since the beginning of time. Whenever you have that pitcher's fielding practice, you see the slider bounce by Matt Harvey, good block by Plawecki. You have half of the guys who take it serious and the other half who don't. And the guys who don't take it serious always have that big throw they got to make, and it's down the right field line, and the guy goes first to third.
Well, the other piece of that is, and you know, you're talking about guys not making full-fledged throws during a practice like that. I mean, I would assume that everybody goes out there fully warmed up, because otherwise you could hurt your arm, right?
Well, everyone goes fully warmed up, but a lot of guys do not want to be out there. They don't want to go through the pitcher's fielding practice during the year. And but it's not today's play. It's been done the entirety of baseball's history.
Worth hits it out to center field, chasing Cespedes back, but he's got room. And that's a long first out as Revere goes back to first.
Interesting to see the reaction of Cespedes on the Murphy homer and that ball. He gets to a spot and then he has to go a little further. So the ball, to me, by his actions, is carrying a little bit.
Wind is blowing out tonight, out of the south.
Some more boos for Harper. It's actually a compliment.
Harper flied out to right his first time up. Now 0 for 21 against Harvey, which matches the longest 0 for any active hitter against any active pitcher. The longest offer for any hitter against any Met pitcher in history. You're not going to believe this. Willie Mays went 0 for 25 against Jerry Koosman.
That can happen.
But it's a little shocking, right? That Willie Mays would go 0 for 25 against anybody.
It's only human. Left-hander too. There's the defense on the infield. A shade up the middle. Straight up on the right side.
Runner goes and Harper fouls it off, so Revere was on his way.
Surprised it's taking so many pitches for Revere to run. You see Revere pat the shortstop Cabrera. When you're running and the ball's fouled off, sometimes the opposing player will say to you, stand up, to try to protect you from going into a slide. It's a, what would it call that? It's courtesy.
So you know what? It's the umpire can do it. A lot of times the umpire, second base umpire, would tell you it's a foul ball.
Yeah.
Harper rips one into right for a base hit. Revere to second. He's going to turn and head to third against Granderson's arm.
Another fastball up, Ronnie.
The Nats have runners at the corners with one out, and Murphy coming up. First hit of the series for Bryce Harper.
The pitch sequence here to Murph. Breaking ball, strike one, fastball away, belt high, foul back. That same pitch, foul back, hanger.
Really, there were two hanging curveballs in that at bat.
Yes.
The first one you get away with because the hitter's got to let it go. He's sitting on fastball.
Murphy's home run was his 6th of the year.
It's pretty much straight up on Murph here all the way around. And I agree. You got double play depth here. You're playing for a double play in the hopes of getting out of the inning, and this is what it does for the hitter, because they got to be close to the bag to turn two. It opens up both holes between the left side and the right side of the infield.
Harper runs. Plawecki's throw into the runner, and Harper steals the base. His 7th of the year.
That's a bit of a surprise right there with Murph up. I kind of want to leave that hole for Daniel by having the first baseman hold the runner on. It exposes that hole we just talked about.
Well, how about this? Would you consider walking Murph in this spot?
I would consider it very much.
And the Mets are going to do exactly that. They're going to walk Murphy intentionally.
So that's a bonehead play right there from Harper.
That'll get Zimmerman to the plate with the bases loaded. Now, Zimmerman had not responded very well to all of the intentional walks when he was hitting behind Harper. Now he'll come up behind an intentional walk to Murphy after being dropped to 5th in the order.
He's been having nightmares about that, and that was really not a smart play by Harper. And I guarantee you, Dusty Baker's going to tell him, you know, don't do that in the future. We want Daniel swinging the bat.
Well, do they have a sign where they can put a red stop sign on you?
Sometimes you got to give a little credit to your players. Maybe they can think a little bit.
Yeah.
Not make mistakes like that.
Do you think Bryce Harper's looking for base running signs?
Well, I don't know.
I'm sure he's got a green light here.
Yeah.
So
that's what I mean. Do you think he's looking for their red light?
You got to look at the signs. You got to look every pitch.
I think that you're talking about a guy who was 0 for 21 against a certain pitcher, and he's trying to make something happen.
He's a little feisty now. He got his hit against Harvey. So here's Zimmerman, bases loaded, 1 out. Huge spot in this game for Zimmerman, but more importantly for Harvey, who struck out Zimmerman his first time up.
If you're going into this at bat, if you're Matt, you're thinking I got to do enough on the inside corner to get Zimmerman to try to pull a slider and hit something on the ground. That's the key.
Revere, Harpy, and Murphy, the base runners, with 1 out. Well, Ryan Zimmerman hitting with runners in scoring position this year has been rough. 171 this year.
Very interesting. The Mets playing straight up, and I'm inclined to agree. Right now, the way Zimmerman's swinging the bat.
We've seen him in RBI situations so many times hit the ball to right center field.
You got it.
Grounds that one to short. Cabrera on the back end, bobbles it, and everybody's safe. Cabrera, who has been so spot on all year at shortstop in a potential double play situation, unable to hang on,
And the Nats get a run and lead 3-1.
He gets to the ball here, Gare. Nice, beautiful backhand. It's in the exchange. And you said it, Gary. He has been spot on. And you can see he's trying to rush for that double play. And it's hit hard enough to get to. And he just couldn't find the handle.
Well, the way Zimmerman runs these days, if he makes that exchange, it's an easy double play.
And Matt threw the slider that Zimmerman tried to pull. Everything was perfect in Matt's eyes, just not turned by Cabrera.
So now Rendon, with the bases still loaded, takes low.
You know, the game in Colorado, remember the ball by Gonzalez, or was it Parra that ended up going under the glove of Conforto that they called a triple? I think it was Parra.
Yep.
You know, that was a little misplay too.
So the Mets, who had only had 6 unearned runs against them all season, make a crucial error. And now Harvey behind on Rendon, 2-0.
Let's see how Matt pitches here. He's got to pitch out of this. He's got to tough up.
Rendon grounded to short his first time. And he lines that one to left. Conforto over in the gap, but he can't make the catch. Harper is in. Murphy right behind him. The throw to the plate by Cabrera is offline. Bounces back to Harvey. No further advance. So after Cabrera botched a potential double play ball, Conforto drops a line drive. And the Nats now have a 5-1 lead.
Well, Conforto has played outstanding in left field here. And that's not really a drop. I think he just kind of misjudged it. Thought it was hit up. He's got it tracked. He just didn't make the right bead to it. He didn't think it was hit as deep.
It was in his glove.
And we were just discussing with Cespedes that the ball is carrying a little bit tonight, and this ball carried on Michael.
Look at the beautiful base running on the backside. That was Zimmerman on the backside. That was terrific base running.
Hit on the ground, just foul.
I think that's got to be a double. I don't think that's going to be ruled an error. Tough play.
Well, I think they put a hit up on the board. I did not hear an announcement.
Yeah.
But it must have been a double, because they have 5 hits on the board, and that would have been the 5th hit. But that is that's a play I'm sure Conforto thought he should have made. Ramos struck out his first time up, and he pulls it sharply through the hole, a base hit. Zimmerman is in. Rendon right behind him. The throw by Conforto is cut off. A 2-run single by Ramos adds to the damage. The Nats have 5 runs home in the 3rd inning, and they lead 7-1.
Well, Ramos got a 2-out RBI. Actually, there's 1 out here, but this is another 2 RBI single. He just always is a thorn in the Mets side, and it's unraveling for Harvey here. I don't think he had a shot. I think David he could have let it go. I don't think he had a chance for him here.
The only thing about this play is you could let it go because Ramos is running. There's no way he's going to go from first to second.
So, Gary, they did rule that a double, correct, Rendon?
So we hear otherwise. We'd have to assume that. Now Espinosa, the 8th man up in the inning, still only 1 out. It all began with a base hit by Revere. With 1 out, Harper singled and stole second. Murphy was intentionally walked, and then the key play of the inning, Zimmerman hitting what looked like it could be an inning-ending double play ball. Cabrera lost it on the transfer as a run came in. Rendon doubles in 2. Ramos singles in 2. And this inning, in many ways, reminiscent of that inning Logan Verrett had in Colorado, where he got the bad call on the foul tip and then gave up 2 big hits. And now it's Verrett who's up behind Harvey in the Mets bullpen. The inability to shut an inning down after something goes wrong. Espinosa had a bunt single his first time up, and he laces one into center for a base hit. Ramos pulls in at second, and the damaging inning continues. Harvey unable to douse the Flames, and now will face Strasburg with 2 men on.
Wow.
5 hits in the inning. Strasburg grounded out to short his first time. He's up there to bunt and takes a strike.
Find it interesting that the pitching coach hasn't been out to talk to the starting pitcher. He did go out there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
He wasn't out. Was he?
I don't believe he did.
Maybe I missed it. My bad. Sorry, Danny.
Strasburg set to swing, and he takes a strike. Ben Revere, who started this whole mess, is out on deck. 5 runs on 5 hits and 1 key error, and you could make the argument there could have been a second error in the inning. Certainly a play that Conforto should have had. And now Strasburg Butcher Boys one, grounds it to right. It'll have the effect of a sacrifice. It's a 5-3 putout for the second out.
He had the force at second. Keep another runner out of scoring position.
I don't think David has a lot of confidence right now in his ability to make that throw.
Did you think that Walker, because he's shading towards first, that it's a strange angle to get Walker over to second base?
That's an easy force at second. I'm sorry.
You're right, Chief.
It could be a double play. I mean, I don't think it's going to be it, but you got to try to keep our lead runner out of there.
So now 2 in scoring position for Revere, who started the inning with a base hit to left field. And he lines one to left center, slicing away from Cespedes. It goes on by him and it'll roll to the wall. 2 more runs are in. Revere around second. He's on his way to third, and he'll make it sliding with a 2-run triple. And the doors have fallen off for the New York Mets in this 3rd inning. A 7-run inning for the Nationals. They now lead it 9-1. And that's going to be all for Matt Harvey. A night when Harvey was hoping to rebound, betrayed by his defense, unable to pick them up here in this 3rd inning, and the roof caved in. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Logan Verrett comes on in relief for the second straight night. Comes in to face Jason Worth with Revere at third. 7 runs home in the inning. And an early exit for Matt Harvey. Worth has walked and flied out. He made the first out of this inning, and then it took forever for Harvey to get the second out. And Verrett, who walked his first 2 batters last night, falls behind on Worth 2-0. There were 2 defensive plays that could have been made behind Harvey that weren't, but then 3 more hits after that, all solidly struck. And that's fouled back by Worth 2-1.
Well, there was a potential for 3 plays here. I think that the swinging bunt by Strasburg, I think that they had a chance to turn 2 if David had gone to the lead runner. So we recall in spring training that the Nationals came in really setting the tone against the Mets. That first spring training game up in the Nationals, where they stole all those bases, and you know that Dusty said, "This is our team." They beat you in the second half, and this is the first series coming in here trying to establish the same thing, trying to turn the corner.
Well, they got shut down by Syndergaard the first night, but they have been rollicking ever since.
They've responded, and I think what happens a lot of times is when a manager like Dusty will say, "Hey, the road to the postseason is through this team, so either you want to go through them or not."
Dusty, I know. Look at his credentials right there. His resume, outstanding. I think he, much like Davey Johnson saying in '86 that we were going to dominate, but an entirely different tack, just throwing the challenge out to his team. Long way to go.
Worth is the 11th man up in this inning. And Bryce Harper would be next. Three-two from Verrett. And Worth gets under 1 to left. Conforto started back, now coming on. And that retires the side, but not before the Nats send 11 men to the plate and score 7. Harvey could have gotten out of it with no runs had Cabrera handled this double play ball, but that didn't happen. Conforto didn't catch that either. 7 score, and the Nats lead 9-0 in the 3rd inning at Citi Field. Curtis Granderson leads off the home third as the Mets try to begin the long climb back against Steven Strasburg, who now has an 8-run lead. Granderson struck out his first time up. So the final line on Matt Harvey reads this way: 2 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 9 runs, 6 earned, 2 walks, 1 intentional, 2 strikeouts, and a home run. Matt's earned run average through 9 starts is now 5.77. 2-1 to Granderson. He threw that one by him. 2-2. David Wright on deck, then Michael Conforto for the Mets in the home third. And the foul ball at the plate. Ramos couldn't handle it.
Caught him right on his thumb. 2 pitchers here with great pedigrees. One on top of his game and one searching.
Curveball fouled off. You know, Strasburg was drafted only 1 year earlier than Harvey. He was the #1 overall pick out of San Diego State in '09, and then Harvey went 7th out of North Carolina the following year. Strasburg about 9 months older than Harvey. Granderson launches one to center field, but Revere has plenty of room out there. And that's the first out. Those were Strasburg's numbers at San Diego State, where he arrived about 40 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And learned how to control his diet, strengthen his workouts, and become a generational pitcher while pitching for Tony Gwynn at San Diego State.
I was going to say, under the great Tony Gwynn.
And when Strasburg signed that big extension a little over a week ago, 7 years, $175 million deal, he invoked Tony Gwynn because, you know, Scott Boras is his agent, and Boras is known for taking his clients to free agency, not for having his clients re-sign with the team that they're with while they're still under contract. And Strasburg said that he thought back to Tony Gwynn, whom he respected so greatly, and how he spent his entire career in San Diego, and he wants that for himself with the Nationals. And that's one of the reasons he decided to sign early.
There's his numbers after 140 starts. Outstanding.
I was going to say about he and Harvey, you know, Steven's less than a year older. He's won 32 more games in his career for Harvey, even though they both missed pretty much the same amount of time with the Tommy John surgery.
And when Steven came back from Tommy John, he wasn't lighting it up either. Went through some struggles. So, you know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you have to go through a lot before it happens. But Strasburg has added a pitch to his repertoire, and you know, he was brought to the Nationals. He and Harper. Harper was supposed to be the greatest player in baseball. He might be, and Strasburg was supposed to be the right-handed version of Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher in the National League, or maybe all of baseball. Well, maybe now he's on his way.
And right at this particular moment in time, right? You go back to Strasburg coming back from Tommy John surgery, and the Nationals shutting him down early and keeping him out of the postseason, versus what the Mets did with Harvey last year, and pitching more innings than any pitcher had after Tommy John, and taking him all the way to the World Series. And that becomes a source of conversation now. Not that the decision for Strasburg or the decision for Harvey has anything to do with their relative success or failure right now, but it becomes a discussion point.
Yeah, a discussion point. But the one difference in this ball game, for me, in watching Matt throw,
Wright gets under one to center field,
is that he had all the pitches to have a successful game. really, for me, the first inning was the story of 2 curveballs. The 3-2 curveball that he walked Worth on, and the 0-2 curveball that Murphy hit out of the ballpark. After that, that inning unraveled. And listen, he gave up some hits after the double play ball wasn't turned, after Porter wasn't able to make the play. Yes, he did. But he had the stuff, which we've not always seen, to have a good outing. But just the choices and the execution were not there.
So can he take anything positive away from that, or is it simply another bad start?
No, it's another bad start. You can't take anything from that and say, boy, you know, I did this well, did that well. It's all results at the end of the day.
Well, it ends up being the shortest outing of Matt's career, 2 2/3 innings, and the most runs allowed in any start in his career, 9. And there's nothing positive about it, any of that.
Either way you slice it, guys, it's not a good outing, and this is another backward step.
Yeah.
He got hit hard.
Slow grounder from Conforto. Zimmerman with the bare hand play to Strasburg, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Strasburg after the Nats put up 7 in the top of the inning. After 3, 9-1 Nats. Your tri-state Audi dealers. Sunday, the crew will dive into the biggest player storylines entering next week's OTAs. Plus, Coach Mike Westhoff will take a closer look at the state of the Jets special teams on an all-new episode of Jets Nation Sunday at 7, only on SNY. 4th inning, Bryce Harper leads off against Logan Verrett, who came on to get the final out of the 3rd when Matt Harvey was knocked out. Harper had a base hit and stole a base in that 7-run 3rd inning for Washington. 1 for 2 on the night. And Verrett finds the outside corner with a fastball. Harper, Murphy, and Zimmerman for Washington. Verrett working in relief back-to-back days after starting last Saturday in Colorado. And he skips one into Harper, a ball and a strike. So the Mets Swiss Army knife being utilized in every conceivable fashion. And the Mets could use some length from him tonight. Mets have to use a lot of bullpen yesterday after Cologne went just 4 2/3. It's not often that this team has back-to-back starts where the starter's unable to get at least 6 innings in.
It's interesting the swings that Harper, you were talking about it before, Keith. When the ball's middle of the plate in, it's a whole different swing, isn't it?
He opens up and kind of his body momentum is pulling him towards the first base dugout, which opens up that inside part of the plate for him.
Curveball fouled off.
He is an unorthodox swinger, and it works. And watch the front shoulder. We've talked about him lifting. He's really driving in here. He really lifts that hands up. Look at his take back. Hands really come up, and he wraps that bat around his head. But you know what? He gets it done.
Two from Verrett. Eighth pitch of the at bat coming from Verrett. Yeah, Harper fouls back the fastball. So Harper wasting away everything Verrett's got in his arsenal. Murphy waiting on deck. 2-2. And Harper yanks that one foul. What do you throw the MVP to try and get him out?
Oh, not pizza.
Oh,
That looks yummy. Can we get one of those?
it's a little thick though. A lot of carbs. I prefer the.
It is, Keith, but it's yummy.
I prefer the thin crust, Gareth.
Do you really?
Yes. You like the deep? Like the deep dish?
No. I like something with a little substance to it, not the.
Oh, I don't like the real thin.
Not the thin crackery stuff that they eat in the Midwest.
No.
You don't want that.
Midwest. Really? I thought California.
I don't know
Up in Napa,
what's
they did
California pizza like. 3-2 now to Harper. I mean, you know, Chicago's got your deep dish.
Yes, I don't like that. To be honest, I'm not.
New York pizza has some substance to it. Not deep dish.
Deep dish is like a pie.
It's pizza pie.
Yeah, pizza pie.
12th pitch of the at bat to Harper, and he fouls off another one. It's turning into a marathon for Harper, and more importantly for Verrett. Then there's Keith's Grill. I actually saw Keith eating a hamburger from Keith's Grill tonight.
I did. I went over and did a little thing for Zagat. And
along the left field line, Conforto gets over and makes the grab. And so Verrett wins that extended at bat. 13 pitches to Harper, and he finally gets him to fly out. Murphy coming up. Let's check in with Steve.
Gary, we've been talking so much about Matt Harvey and the mechanical side of things, but you know, something else he has to deal with right now is the fan reaction. You guys heard the boos. They were pretty loud. I'm sitting right here embedded with the fans next to the dugout, and I guarantee you that Matt Harvey heard some things that he probably really had never heard before. It's a really tough business. This is something that he's never experienced before. Last year, Game 5 of the World Series got the loudest cheers that you can remember, and now it's completely turned on him. So you talk about the mechanical things he has to fix, but another layer that Harvey's going to have to fight through a little bit is how he went from being the darling to now the fans turning on him a little bit.
what's going on here?
I do not know. David Wright talking to the home plate umpire James Hoy. Terry Collins is coming out as well. David's pointing at something out in the outfield. I don't know what that's all about.
Is there a light that is maybe that's in? David's looking in the direction, down the right field line, and maybe there's a spotlight or something.
It can't be the monitor, is it?
No, that's always.
That's been there. How about this light right below it?
That's a good call, Keith. So what are we going to do? Let's get the engineers over there. I can't be. Someone got a laser?
Well, apparently whatever it is, they're going to continue playing now. But let's go back to what Steve was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, this is a what have you done for me lately business. And, you know, this is a team with great expectations. And Matt Harvey is part of those expectations. And that's the nature of what you get.
That's why New York is the toughest town to play in of all the big cities, because it is. The fans can be tough. The fans can be tough on you. And I thought it was going to be. I mean, Steve's down there and said it was pretty. I thought the boos were going to be louder. So I'm sure there were some individuals that had remarks for him that were negative, and so you know. No one's going to feel sorry for you in this game.
No, I mean, I booed off the mound many times at Shea Stadium, and it's just part of playing here. You know, it's you're going to get immediate reaction. You throw a shutout, people are going to have the opposite reaction. And if you really give it up, they're going to give it to you. But this is a unique circumstance.
Yeah, I think it really is, Ronnie, and I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, the enormous success that Matt enjoyed from day one in the major leagues. I mean, he made 10 starts the year he came up in 2012, and he was instantly anointed as the savior of the franchise.
Right.
And then the next year, he built on that, started the All-Star game, and his legend was firm less than a year into the big leagues.
Finished 4th in the Cy Young in 2013 with 9 wins.
And then came back from Tommy John last year, and even though he hit some bumps in the road as far as the discussion about his innings limits was concerned, and there was some negative fan reaction to that, he was able to overcome that with his wonderful performance in that last game in the World Series. But you know, Matt has been on a pedestal since the day he arrived in the big leagues, and you know, they say the bigger they come, the harder they fall. That's what's happened here. Murphy strokes one out to left center, back in the gap. Conforto on the move. He won't get there. It's off the wall. And Murphy's got another extra base hit. A 2-run homer in the first inning, and now an opposite field double. And Murph really enjoying his return back to New York.
Right with the pitch, down and away. You know, at times Murph forgot about left center field. When he first came up, he used it both gaps. And there, it's perfect right there. It's not a bad pitch. Got that outside corner covered. You know what I sense too, Gary, Ron, in regards to the fans? He could have been more roundly booed. I think the fans are stunned. I think the Met fans are stunned and worried.
Stunned as Matt is stunned.
Because the Mets want this. They're the home team. The Mets are pulling. The Met fans want this team to go well. They had a taste of the World Series last year. I think they're a bit stunned and they're a little bit worried. And I got to believe management is too.
Well, that's the next question, isn't it? I mean, Matt's next start is scheduled for Tuesday night in Washington against this same team. Is there any question as to whether you run him out there for that start?
Oh, you run him out there. No. He's going to go. He's going out there every 5th day. The question is, Gary, is when does the string run out if the outings continue to be poor?
And your only option is to either fix it here, or if it isn't fixed here, the thing that you never thought would ever pass your lips, and that would be to find it in Las Vegas or Binghamton or wherever.
I mean, that's the thing, and you said it. This is a team that expects to get back to the World Series this year, and so the rope gets shorter for anybody who's not pulling their weight.
Listen, there's been a lot of great pitchers that have had to go down and work on their game. I'm not recommending that. It's just that, you know, you can't continue at this rate here. You know, we've seen guys go down and get their game in line. But I think that's a good thing that he has his next start is against this team that gave him a good beating today, in one sense. You know?
Well, this is now twice in a row against Washington. The last one, there were special circumstances. It was right after the whole innings controversy. Clearly his mind wasn't right that day, and his team bailed him out, and the Mets won the game. And that's ball 4 to Zimmerman. So Verrett continues to struggle. A double and a walk. And now Rendon will come up with 2 aboard.
There's a lot of things you don't like, but one of them is that this is a team that you're facing, but it's not on top of their game right now as far as their hitting, but maybe they're coming out of it.
Rendon hit the fly ball to left center that went in and out of Conforto's glove for a 2-run double in that big 3rd inning. Murphy at second, Zimmerman at first, and 1 out. You're not used to seeing Verrett walking people. He walked 2 last night in a 3rd of an inning and just walked Zimmerman.
It's like the hangover effect from Colorado. When you get beat up sometimes you want to nibble, and Verrett is not a nibbler when he's at his best.
Jammed Rendon there, and it's 1-1. Last night Met pitchers walked 11 and struck out 11. How rare is that?
And
only one other time in Mets history have they ever walked 11 and struck out 11 in the same game.
And this was a pitching staff that came into last night's game that had the least amount of walks given up.
And they still have the least.
Yes.
Which shows you how far ahead they were.
Terry's obviously not happy.
Well, those 2 guys have to figure out how to get through this game. I mean, they got 4 in the 3rd innings out of their bullpen last night, and Verrett's throwing a ton of pitches already in his stint. He's only worked 2/3 of an inning, 35 pitches.
Spirited discussion. They happen in 9-1 games.
Dick Scott, the bench coach, getting involved in that conversation as well. Rendon reaches out and dunks one into shallow right. Granderson will have to play it on a hop. Tries for the force at second. Too late. Zimmerman arrives safely, and it's a bloop single for Rendon to load the bases.
They're going to check that to make sure, but when it rains, it pours, does it not? Some of these games, they just, when the other team gets you by the horns, they just, everything goes their way. And, look at Murph. Baryshnikov. Zimmerman's in a tough spot. He did the right thing. He didn't bounce around like. But anyway, this is just piling on here. No breaks going your way.
Ramos hit a 2-run single in that 7-run 3rd. He swings wildly at a slider, 0-1.
Ramos is a nice hitter. Like his swing.
This is a guy who hit 229 last year.
He's had injuries, right?
Well, last year was the first really injury-free season he had.
He's got a nice swing. He's got a power swing too. I think he's a strong kid.
And Verrett with a couple of sliders gets ahead 0-2. Espinosa on deck. Bases loaded, 1 out. And Ramos hits a double play ball to 3rd. Wright's going to come home with it, get the force there. David could have taken it to 3rd base with the slow-footed Ramos running to 1st, but instead he decided to come home with it. And instead of getting 2, he merely gets the lead man.
Milwaukee was a little afraid that he didn't have his foot on home plate, so stabbed at it a couple times.
So now Zimmerman at 3rd, Rendon at 2nd, and Ramos at 1st. Espinosa is already 2 for 2 tonight, a drag bunt single, and then a solid single to center. And Verrett throws one by him. You go back to the play in Los Angeles when David tried to turn that 5-5-3 double play against Adrian Gonzalez and just couldn't get enough on the throw. And I wonder whether he was thinking back to that as he decided to make that play home.
Yeah, I would think that with Ramos running, and that would have really been a chance for him to tag the bag and go to first. But if he doesn't feel like he has the arm strength, you just don't like to see those plays made. You want aggressive defensive play. You want to go after it. Turn 2 on the swing and bunt from Strasburg. You want to do those kind of things because it be the difference in the game.
Well, I mean, just think about it. In these first 4 innings, obviously Harvey and Verrett have not pitched very well, but think of all the extra outs they've been forced to get. And Verrett strikes out Espinosa to end the inning. So he keeps the Nats off the board. It's been a jig in the park for Murph, no? Let's look at tonight's Verizon trivia question. Who holds the record for most head-to-head starts by a Mets pitcher and an opponent? Strasburg and Harvey meeting for the 3rd time. Which Mets pitcher and opposing starter met the most times? Yoenis Cespedes leads off in the home 4th, and Strasburg throws one by him. Cespedes had a base hit and scored the only Met run in the 2nd. I can tell you who your most frequent opponent was in a Mets uniform.
I know who it was. Because every time I look up, I see that big head out there. Dealing.
Big.
Right?
Very big.
Very big. And
Rick Sutcliffe.
Yeah, and you couldn't beat him in '84.
So you and Sutcliffe squared off 9 times when you were a Met.
Sut could hit a little bit too. You couldn't just throw it down the middle.
Now you would figure that because he was here for so long, that the record would belong to somebody matching up against Seaver.
My first thought was Seaver Jenkins.
But it wasn't.
No.
Now Seaver met Bob Gibson 11 times and Steve Carlton 9 times. Those were his 2 most frequent opponents as a Met. But that's not the answer. Cespedes bounces it foul.
Those are the kind of games when you look in the paper and it says today's probables. Oh my God, Seaver, Seaver, Carlton, Gibson, Seaver, Marichal, Koufax. It's like, oh man, can't wait.
Syndergaard, Kershaw.
Yes.
You're being very contemporary.
2-2 to Cespedes.
You always bring me in. You bring me home, Garrett.
Try my best. Cespedes takes the breaking ball on the inside corner and did not think so. That's 6 strikeouts for Strasburg.
He thought it curved around the plate, and he may have an argument. Let's see. He has a gripe. This will tell right here. Oh, it got the plate running. That's a strike.
Yeah. So 1 out now. Duda, who struck out his first time up. Last time the Mets faced Strasburg before tonight, it was the last game of that series in Washington last September. And if you remember, Strasburg took a 2-1 lead into the 8th inning of that game, and then Kelly Johnson tied it with a home run. Strasburg left, Storen came in, Cespedes homered against Storen, and the Mets had themselves a sweep of that series.
Kelly Johnson, wow, what a hit.
What a series that was.
It was.
Mets were behind in every game.
I think your call at some point was this team doesn't know how to lose.
One of the big hits in that series belonged to a guy who will be here tomorrow night. Kirk Neuenhuis had a big home run in that series, and he is now starting almost every day in center field for Milwaukee. Let's begin their series with the Brewers tomorrow night, with Steven Matz making his return to the mound against Willie Peralta. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow night right here on SNY.
Peralta, who's supposed to be their #1, has struggled. Neuenhuis, 859 OPS.
And a big shift on Lucas. There it is.
And the Brewers beat the Cubs today, in part with a Neuenhuis home run. On the inside corner, and Duda's caught looking. That's 7 now for Strasburg. Now the Brewers starters, especially their front line guys, have just been dreadful, led by Peralta, whom they considered pulling from the rotation, but he's going to get at least this start to try and prove himself again.
Wow.
City probables.
Geez, we need to get some garlic there to keep them evil spirits away.
Chase Anderson had a no-hitter for 7 innings, though, on his last start.
Yes, he did. Against the Cubs. Walker takes a strike.
See what Joe Madden did with Chris Bryant last night in the 12th inning? He played him at 3 different positions in the inning.
He had a 5-man infield, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Cubs won that game in the 13th on a bases-loaded walk to the pitcher, Travis Wood, issued by Carlos Torres.
That's a fine.
Carlos Torres, one of 3 ex-Mets in the Brewers bullpen. They've got Chris Capuano, Carlos Torres, and a guy who was only a Met briefly, Lane Boyer.
Okay.
Walker had a base hit his first time up.
Blaine Boyer, who was with the Atlanta Braves, right, for the beginning of his career, and then
we had him for a while, didn't we?
Yeah. 5 games, I think it was. That's lined up the middle, and Walker's 2 for 2. So after Strasburg had retired 7 in a row, Walker with a 2-out hit.
Changeup, I think, Keith.
He's been hurt by the changeup. Cabrera got him. It's a good pitch. They're staying back, which means got a pound inside. Nice hitting by Walker, who's showing signs of swinging a better bat. He had a horrific spell on that last road trip.
Cabrera, who's driven in the only Met run tonight with the 2nd inning single, but it was his error in the 3rd that opened the door on the huge Washington inning and ultimately knocked Harvey out. There's a strike. By the way, that error by Cabrera was only his 2nd of the season.
Yeah. You know what, though? He knew he had to get it quick. Backhand in the hole, turn the 2. Good effort. He's been solid.
Slowly hit, Murph on the charge. Makes the play on Cabrera to retire the side. After 4 at Citi Field in the rubber game of the series, it's been all Nats. invite you to test drive a new Ford. You'll discover why Ford is the total package. Logan Verrett's worked an inning and a third in relief after Matt Harvey had the shortest start of his career. Met pitchers who threw 217 pitches last night have thrown over 100 through the first 4 innings tonight. You know, one of those nights happen every once in a while, but you don't like to have one of those nights back-to-back nights.
No, you don't.
Strasburg lifts one to right field, and Granderson is there, and Verrett gets a much-needed 1-pitch out. Let's answer our Verizon trivia question. The most frequent matchup of starters, Mets versus opponent.
Kuzman and someone?
John Matlack and Jerry Royce. You would not have guessed that, would you?
No.
It was between 1972, which was Matlack's rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year, and 1977.
So Jerry Royce was pitching with the Pirates then. He came up with the Cardinals. Jerry got traded to Houston, then went to the Pirates.
When did he go to the Dodgers? Later in his career?
Yeah, I think 80s.
And Revere takes a strike. Revere is having what he hopes will be a breakout night. A single and a triple. He's driven in 2 runs. Came in hitting under 100 where the night began.
This is one of those oh-no appearances for a young relief pitcher. Because of the short start by Matt, he's going to be pushed as far as he can go, which means he won't be able to pitch for 3-4 days, which might mean you need another arm.
And particularly if the Mets have to run a couple more pitchers out there tonight. Don't want to be too short-handed going into the weekend. Duda with the easy play and 2 quick outs for Verrett in the 5th. See, Jerry Royce went to the Astros in '72, so he pitched 2 years there, '72, '73, then to the Pirates, and he went to the Dodgers in '79 and spent a long time there.
Well, you know why he got traded from the Cardinals? Because he was married, evidently, and I could be wrong here, to a fairly wealthy woman, wealthy family, from a wealthy family. Jerry wanted, in the day when you couldn't bring your wives on the road trip, he wanted a room and bring his wife on the road trip and didn't want a roommate, wanted a separate room, and Bush traded him. The Cardinals said no.
Because of that?
Yes.
Oh, different day.
Well, you know why they traded Carlton, right? They traded Carlton because Carlton wanted $100,000. And old man Bush got angry, and they traded him to Rick Wise, and guess what Rick Wise was making? $100,000.
Carlton was a little better. David with a perfect throw gets Worth, and an easy inning for Logan Verrett. Cost him just 7 pitches to get through the inning. Halfway through, 9-1 Nats. M&M's chocolate candy is the official chocolate of the New York Mets. Join them as they celebrate 75 years at MMS.com and celebrate with M. Your fourth, fifth inning recap. Steven Strasburg, the beneficiary of many early runs, and Matt Harvey with the shortest outing, giving up the most runs of any start in his career. Kevin Plawecki goes after the first pitch slider, 0-1. Plawecki flied out to right his first time up. Alejandro De Aza on deck to pinch hit, and then Curtis Granderson. So Verrett is done after 2 1/3 in relief. And looks like Antonio Bastardo will be next out of the Mets bullpen. That'll really speed things up.
Boy.
1-2 to Plawecki. Now Strasburg trying to go to 7-0 on the season and needs 3 more outs to qualify for a win.
What did you say earlier? Pedro Martinez went 8-0?
The last time that a player for this franchise, which of course was the Montreal Expos before they moved to Washington, started out 6-0, it was Pedro in 1997 when he started 8-0. Strasburg trying to get to 7-0 tonight. Well, it's not 1973 anymore, but those are always words to live by if you're a Mets fan.
Sign might be from 73, though.
Well, the guy was definitely around in 73. And Plawecki fouls it off on the check swing. Of course, the famous story was that M. Donald Grant, then the chairman of the board, when the Mets were struggling in August, came into the clubhouse and gave the team a pep talk and said, among other things, you got to believe in yourselves. And Tug McGraw, in his probably mocking way, got up in front of the whole team and started yelling, "You got to believe, you got to believe."
Donald Grant was not the favorite of the players.
He was kind of, he wasn't very jocular.
Tom Seaver doesn't speak very highly of him.
Well, I mean, Grant ran Seaver out of town. It was 1977. What did he call? He called Tom an ingrate.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fighting words.
Plawecki goes down on the high fastball. 8 strikeouts now for Strasburg. 1 down in the 5th.
I guess.
It's a fastball for Strasburg. It's been electric. Even when the hitters have had the count in their favor 3-2 or know it's coming, they still has thrown it by him.
Now De Aza. Pinch hit in the first game of the series and struck out. Alejandro is trying to add to his value. He's been taking some ground balls at first base, where he played a little bit in the minor leagues, but the Mets got caught short the other day, and so he figured it was probably a good idea to take some ground balls and make himself available at that spot. Very little has gone right for De Aza this year. Going back to when he signed, his expectation was that he would be a platoon center fielder with Lagares, but that's before the Mets re-signed Cespedes and changed De Aza's role completely. Up the middle, he's got himself a base hit. So De Aza gets on the curveball from Strasburg and has the Mets' 5th hit of the night.
Fastball away.
I think curveball, Keith.
Yes, sir. Tried to backdoor it. Stayed back. Nice hitting.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Granderson up for the 3rd time. He struck out and fly to center. Ronnie, when you watch Steven Strasburg now compared to last year, the year before, what do you see that's allowed him to hit his stride?
Well, what's interesting is that, you know, a lot of times when you've seen him pitch in the past, you know, he'd be very fidgety on the mound. He didn't have that you know, that quiet confidence that I think that we've seen him have this year, and especially tonight. Anxious was how I always felt when I would watch him pitch.
Now, it's very interesting that you say that, because you said something very similar last night about Gio Gonzalez, another guy who has had issues with his composure on the mound. So how much of that can you lay at the doorstep of Mike Maddox?
Mike Maddox, that's what one of the things that he brings to the table is not only, you know, refining what pitches that you have. You know, Strasburg adding that cutter slider, Gio throwing that curveball a little harder, but he's always brought to the table the mental part of it. You know, the ability to withstand adversity on the mound. He did a great job with the staff in Texas that wasn't always that deep, especially their starters.
You know, Mike's brother always had the reputation of being the most cerebral of pitchers. Granderson floats one to the right side. Murphy with the flip, and Rendon with the turn, but not in time. That'll go as a 4-5 fielder's choice for the second out.
You know what I see out of Strasburg is, you know, confidence. I mean, you're 6-0. I don't see him overthrowing. Sometimes he would muscle, and now it's just an evolution as you evolve, become a veteran, and you realize you just don't have to muscle it. I see him out here throwing effortlessly. That's the difference I see, Ron.
That's a great point, Keith. Right on.
So is there a lesson there for some of the young Mets starters as they look at a pitcher who's a few years more evolved?
Well, I think what you find in Strasburg is that, you know, he's evolved in the sense that
David breaks his bat and dunks one into right center for a base hit. First hit of the series for Wright, and the Mets have 2 men on.
You take him any way you can get him when you're struggling. Gets jammed. Was it a broken bat? A little flare out there. So you're down Curtis here. You're down 8 runs, 1 base at a time. You can't take a chance.
And I think what's interesting about watching Steven Strasburg pitch now, I always felt like he was always thinking about strikeouts, piling up strikeouts, and it's ironic now that he doesn't look like he's going for him, and he's getting them. He's got 4 pitches he can throw for strikes, and when he needs it, he throws 96, 97. And maybe, you know, we always talk about all the money in the game. Sometimes, you know, you spend a lot of your time as a young player in today's game thinking about when's the payday coming, because it's going to be so large for the better players. And maybe you were talking about certain clients of an agent, you know, they want to be pushed to free agency and test the waters. I'm sure Bryce Harper is going to maybe do that at some point. But there's other players that would like to have the comfortability of knowing that, hey, I'm making great money, and it'll be easier for me to be successful this way.
Well, he certainly has found his comfort zone, hasn't he? And the big contract. 1-2 to Conforto, who's 0 for 2 tonight.
You know, what do we spend? We spend a lot of times when we're one team is leading by a lot of runs, talking about the pitcher, and, you know, you have to pitch different. What should he do with a big lead like this? We haven't spent 1 second talking about it with Strasburg because he's fully under control.
Pitch count high, but needs 1 out to qualify for a win. And Conforto pops it up. Rendon with a long way to go, but he gets there, and that retires the side. 2 hits, 2 left. Strasburg threw 5 with a 9-1 lead. MLB.com at Bat app, which includes game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Alejandro De Aza, after pinch hitting, stays in left field. Michael Conforto comes out, and the new pitcher Antonio Bastardo will hit third in the order.
Well, Bastardo pitched in last night's ball game and struggled with his control. 10 walks and 17 in the third. We said coming in that was going to be his Achilles heel, is that, you know, when he's on, he'll run through lineups, but when he's not, the control issue is always a problem.
Last night he walked a batter, hit a batter, gave up a hit. Was charged with 2 runs. He'll come in to face Bryce Harper. Harper 1 for 3 tonight. Last time up, he had a 13 pitch at bat against Logan Verrett before flying out. So you'd have to say that the Mets have done a pretty good job keeping Harper in check in this series. He's 1 for 8 with 4 walks in the 3 games.
Mets seem to pitch him tough.
I mean, last year they walked him at a much lower rate than other teams, and you know, had the success they needed to against him. And even now, when Harper's being walked at a prodigious rate, the Mets have, other than Cologne, really gone right after him. Off-speed pitch by Bastardo, and it's 0-2.
Hard to tell sometimes with Bastardo whether it's a slider or a changeup. It looked like a slider, didn't it?
Murphy on deck, Zimmerman behind him. So Verrett went 2 1/3 in relief, allowed no runs, 2 hits, a walk, a strikeout. After Harvey lasted just 2 2/3. Steven Matz gets the ball tomorrow night. Terry Collins said that they'll be a little conservative with Steven. After all, he did complain of a little elbow discomfort. Turned out to be nothing serious. Similar to Syndergaard's trip to the doctor 3 weeks ago, which turned out to be nothing serious, and he went right back in the rotation and has really not had any restrictions on him. But I think they're a little more wary with Matz just because of his history. And he missed 2 months last year with what they thought at first was a minor injury. Wright charging, makes the bare hand play, and he throws out Harper. Nice play, David Wright.
I'll tell you what, I don't think there's anybody that can do this any better than David. He is really adept at that play, the barehanded throw on the run. Just can't do it any better.
So you said conservative with Matz, 85 pitches, 90?
I don't know what that means exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think they wouldn't push him much past 90 or 95. But what I'm saying is that's going to require probably some bullpen tomorrow after Cologne got knocked out in the 5th last night and Harvey got knocked out in the 3rd today. Murphy pops one up and Walker is there to grab it. 2 out. Let's check in with the studio. Kareth Burke has a game break brought to you by your local Honda dealers. So let's see, he's got 2 this season. Last year he had 3 in 1 game at Citi Field.
I thought Jason Hamill was off to an unbelievable start for the Cubs. Gives them up today.
Here's Zimmerman, who's 0 for 2 and a walk. So last October, Murph did something historic, right? Became the first player ever to homer in 6 straight postseason games. And when he came back here this series, the Mets had a video tribute to him. Last year, Kirk Neuenhuis did something that had never been done before. Hit 3 home runs in a Mets home game. Does he get a video tribute too?
Not coming, Gary. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No.
That was incredible.
But I'm happy for Kirk. It's nice to see that he has not only caught on with Milwaukee, but he's a starting player right now.
And I had no idea he was in Milwaukee.
I heard that.
I'm always the last to know.
I thought you were kidding. Ball four to Zimmerman. He's on base again. That's the fourth walk by Met pitching tonight. First base runner against Bastardo.
Last 2 days have not been fun for Dan Warthen. You said something interesting just a second ago with Matt's going to get an MRI and Noah a couple weeks prior. You know, it really tells you how the game has changed, because you used to fight tooth and nail not to see the doctor. You did not want to go see him because, you know, you just didn't want him to have to take an X-ray. Didn't always have MRIs when I first started my career, but now, you know, you want to go and get checked, make sure you're all right.
And why do you think that's different?
Well, because the investment is a lot different than it was in my day, and the thought process with pitchers is a lot different. They're such a huge commodity to have, and very precious, and you want to take care of them. It was thought of a little differently in the day. You know, it's like, well, if he blows out, we'll get another guy.
Rendon is 2 for 3 tonight. But do you think that puts negative thoughts in pitchers' minds?
I don't know. I think that
it's constant worry about getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I was asked that the other day. Did you ever think about getting hurt? And I said, not one day. Not one day did I think about that. But you know, if it's talked about a lot, you're going to think about it. You know, I mean, I've had people ask, you know, when is so and so, he throws so hard, when is so and so going to hurt their arm? What are you talking about, hurt their arm? Well, he'll hurt his arm when he hurts his arm. I mean, you don't want to predict those kind of things or even think about it. Or I don't.
He knocks it down 1-2. Well, if there were any accurate predictor of when pitchers were going to get hurt, then there'd be a little more certainty about how to handle them. But like you, I'm reading Jeff Passan's book, The Arm, and I'm almost done with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the answer is that nobody knows. There might be things we might know in the future, which might help, but not yet. Off the plate, and it's 2-2.
It's so every player, every pitcher, especially talking about the arm, every pitcher is different. You know, we try to put them under kind of one microscope, but every single one is different and unique.
Rendon hits one through the hole, and he's got his third hit of the night. Zimmerman pulls in at second.
Well, Rendon starting to get untracked. Watch him just stay level. This is around a mid-thigh strike. Fastball. That's outside corner. Yes, little outer part of the plate. Mid-thigh. Nice level swing.
Rendon came into the series hitting .227. He's 6 for 10 now in the 3 games. And now Ramos, who drove in a couple of runs with a single in that 7-run third inning for the Nats, batting here with 2 out and 2 on. And he drives one to right center, cutting across his Cespedes to make the grab, and that retires the side. That was a bolt off the bat of Ramos, but Cespedes able to reel it in. Middle of the 6th, still 9-1 Washington. 6-0, pitching some of the best baseball of his career. And he has continued that tonight. 8 strikeouts through the first 5 innings. He's allowed just a run on 6 hits, and he's had plenty of run support since the start of this game. Daniel Murphy hit a 2-run homer off Matt Harvey in the first. Nats added 7 to knock Harvey out of the box in the third. And for the second straight night, it's been a lopsided game tilting toward the Nationals in the rubber game of this 3-game series. Cespedes has scored the only Met run tonight on a base hit and scored in the second.
Chris Spire, bench coach for Dusty Baker. He's got a nice ex-major league coaching staff, Mr. Baker.
As Dusty used to manage in San Francisco, where Chris played a large portion of his career.
Right.
And by the way, the Giants all of a sudden are winning every day. They got back-to-back complete games the last 2 nights from Baumgartner and Cueto, and the Giants have now won 7 in a row. What's that, 3 complete games for Cueto?
I think so. And Baumgartner the night before,
they exchanged words,
struck out and exchanged words with Will Myers.
Right.
And Baumgartner, in his typical country fashion, downplayed it after the game.
Ooh,
what are we making there?
I don't know.
I think we're all getting hungry though.
It's like we're dumping it in some cornmeal, whatever that is.
Just like the.
Can't tell where we're at here. What do we got? Oh, we got bacon on a stick. It's the bacon on a stick.
Very, very good for you.
But they dip it with cheese or barbecue?
Because bacon on a stick by itself isn't good enough.
That's funny.
Oh, it's a little maple syrup they put on it. Thank you, Brandon, for giving us the demonstration. Looks very tasty. Perhaps they'd like to bring one here. Powered back by Cespedes. You forget sometimes just how many unbelievable food options there are.
Yes. Well, Keith and I had to walk out to the back to play some catch today, and we walked by a lot of the food courts and stands, and boy, I mean,
it's been a while since I've been back.
Yeah, me too.
Lots of options.
3-2 to Cespedes, and he draws a walk. That is the first walk of the night given up by Strasburg. He's right at 100 pitches for the night. No action in the Nats bullpen, although that may change in a moment. Strasburg threw 104 in his last start against Miami. He's stirring around down there, but nobody throwing yet. Here's Duda, who's been up twice and struck out twice in his first game back in the lineup after missing a couple with some back soreness. Takes a curveball for a strike. Anyway, the Giants have Jeff Samardzija going tonight in San Diego, trying to keep that run of great pitching going, and they've got an early 1-0 lead. Ball and a strike to Duda. Oliver Perez getting the chewing gum ready.
One count, still coming in with the changeup. Look up behind here.
He was mad at himself with that walk there to Cespedes with the big lead. Don't want to give any free passes when you got a 8-run lead.
And Ollie's got the bubble gum in, and now he's ready to warm up.
He goes from 0 to 65 straight away.
He's still hopping over foul lines, isn't he?
There's no middle ground.
of those sighs for Lucas so far this year. He's got 7 home runs, but it's been such an uneven beginning for him. And he strikes out on the high fastball. 3rd time he's been struck out tonight. That's 9 for Strasburg.
Well, Strasburg wanted to come in, but kind of got underneath his fastball and just flew up and away, and Duda was chasing it.
A disgruntled customer.
See his buddy laughing at the torment his buddy's going through. Keith, we're like a quarter way through the season. Is this like, do you take stock as a hitter if you're off to a slow or fast start, or especially a slow start? Quarter of the way through the season.
You're a quarter of the way through. We're into almost 40 games. You're at 40 games. That's a slow start, and that's reason for concern. Yeah, that's more than a slow start. I mean, start would not be the proper word.
It's a slow quarter of the season.
Yes, it's not something you don't want.
So when you take stock, what does that mean?
You got to keep the faith and keep taking extra BP. Keep going up there.
At what point in a season, if things are going poorly for you, and let's just take Duda as an example, do you say to yourself, I've got to change something? I've got to change my stance. I've got to change something about what I'm doing to try and make it better? Or do you not do that if you have confidence in yourself, even if you're not doing well?
Well, if you're a 300 hitter and you've got 300 seasons to back it up, if, for instance, if it was a Daniel Murphy off to a 40-game bad start, I would be less worried. Lucas, he hasn't been able to make the adjustments on strike 3. Yep, struck him out. Another high fastball on.
10 strikeouts for Strasburg as he gets Walker.
Really the same pitch he threw to Duda
upstairs.
He's gotten a lot of strikes on those fastballs out of the strike zone.
He has. He throws enough slow stuff that I don't know if you can say 96 is sneaky, but he gets it past the hitters without any contact.
Now Cabrera. I mean, going back to Duda for a second, I mean, his home run numbers are what they are, right? He's got 7 home runs. He's on a pace for 28, which is, it's 27 last year, 30 the year before. He's not going to be a high average hitter, and he was hitting 236 coming into today. But what he's always done in the past, which has really redeemed him offensively, is he's drawn a lot of walks, and that's not happening this year.
Well, they're attacking him now, and they've gotten used to him. I just haven't. I mean, I know we're kind of harping on Lucas here, but I haven't seen him make the adjustment to the off-speed pitch, to the breaking ball in the dirt. And when pitchers know that they don't have to throw a breaking ball for a strike or an out pitch as a changeup, Lucas wants to hit the fastball like everybody. But Lucas might be what he might be. What he is like coming to this season as a 247 hitter lifetime. He might be a guy that's a 240 hitter that's going to hit you 20+ home runs, drive you in and 80 runs. That might be what he is.
But if he's
when you're a 240 hitter, Gary, you're going to make a lot of outs.
I'm with you there, but he's a guy who's always had that 360 on base percentage.
Yes.
Which is what this organization values, and now he's sub 300. And that's the part that's a little scary. So what you're saying is they're attacking him more, so he's not walking as much, and he's not getting the hits to compensate. Over the shoulder, Espinosa with a beautiful play, and that retires the side. Espinosa showing off deep on the fly pattern. Reels it in. And Strasburg approves. Don't 9-1 Washington. That's an MLB to help support youth baseball and softball programs. Tonight, future stars from Asapic Baseball League of Corona had a special chance to play catch with Keith and Ron before the game. They represent one of 70 leagues who received baseballs and softballs from SNY, and all SNY donated more than 3,500 baseballs to youth leagues this season.
That was really fun because the kids were really good. I mean, you could have a proper catch, couldn't you, Keith? I mean,
I threw my guy a couple curves.
Oh, you did.
And
he dropped one off the table.
So mean.
So how is the old wing working there, Ronnie?
It's fine for you know, the 10, 11 minutes of 45-mile-an-hour fastballs
at 25 feet.
Fine, working fine.
How are things out at the old wiffle ball stadium?
It's pretty cool out there, and it was funny when we got back there. The kids were throwing, and all of the kids were a certain height, but one of them was as tall as I was, or seemed like as tall as I was.
A tall kid,
and he could throw. If you're playing catch, the ball had a little zip.
So he was the kid when they show up for the game, they asked to check his birth certificate?
It's not only check his birth certificate, that's the kid that some parents are like, I don't know if you want to hit against this kid. You might want to take a day off.
Denny Espinosa 2 for 3 tonight. Second inning of relief for Antonio Bastardo. And he threw one by him, 2-2. And Steven Strasburg is out on deck to bat. He's throwing 113 pitches tonight.
That's Dusty. That's been Dusty's, I think, main criticism with today's world, and I don't think Dusty buys into the pitch count. He does not buy into it.
Well, I guess now that they've given him $175 million, they're trying to get the most out of him.
Oh boy.
Espinosa down on strikes for the second time tonight. First strikeout for Bastardo. And here comes Strasburg to bat. This does not happen very often in today's game, particularly in a lopsided game like this.
And in the day, it used to happen all the time because you'd say, why should we use our bullpen? It's 9-1. Let the starter finish it. I mean, he's not going to finish it,
but he's going to get the 7th inning.
He wants 7 out of him. That's I think Dusty wants. And by the way, I agree with him. So he must be simpatico with Mr. Rizzo, the general manager.
Well, you got a right-hand batter leading off the next inning, then 2 left-hand hitters. So Strasburg may just get Plawecki, and that's it. And then they'll bring Ollie in the game. But you know the old saying, Ronnie, when a pitcher gets 4 at-bats in a game, he's had a good night.
always good. 4, hasn't struck out.
Strasburg already has a double-digit strikeout game for the 4th time this year, 25th time in his career. And he's well on his way to going 7-0 to start the season. And that may well mean that he'll be on Terry Collins' short list. Terry, of course, is managing the National League team in the All-Star game in San Diego in July.
Is this the first year he's been clean shaven? He's always had a beard or a mustache?
I don't know. He looks younger though, huh?
He does.
He had the goatee.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. I knew he had some sort of facial hair.
Well, number 34 for the Mets is going to be on that short list too, isn't he?
Well, he'll be right at the top of the list.
Yeah. But I think the guy on the West Coast is. Well, Arrieta's got to be there too.
Arrieta, Kershaw,
Bumgarner.
Yeah, all those guys.
A lot of it depends on when they pitch, right?
Of course, the Mets had the starting pitcher in the All-Star game as recently as 3 years ago. But that guy, Matt Harvey, is in a different place right now. Jacob deGrom will get his next start Saturday afternoon against Milwaukee.
He did pretty well in the All-Star game last year.
Certainly did. He opened a lot of eyes. Made the hitters look like they had their eyes wide shut. By the way, this is only the 3rd time in Strasburg's career he's had 4 at-bats in a game, which will give you an idea how carefully he's been handled for a large portion of his career, but maybe now the wraps are off.
Matt Scherzer, the loser, the only loser so far in this series for the Nats. Tough loss.
It's been puzzling with all the home runs.
Yeah.
Not just this year, but last year as well. And Strasburg lifts one to right. And Granderson in to play it. 2 out. Well, let's do our Twitter poll brought to you by Toyota. Which of these major league teams has had the most surprising results so far, either positive or negative? You've got the Phillies and the White Sox on the plus side, the Astros and the Blue Jays on the negative side. Who has surprised you the most? Tweet us at SNYTV.
There's 3 on that list that I have no issue with. Well, it's negative or positive. There's one team I'm not surprised that's either doing well or bad.
Those that?
The Sox.
You're not surprised the White Sox are doing so well?
I'm not surprised at all. I thought they made some nice moves in the offseason.
They've made some nice moves the season prior, and it didn't work out. But the addition of Frazier, who struggled early,
but their pitching has been
just phenomenal.
Yeah. Although they've struggled lately, they've lost 4 in a row. They lead down to 2.5 games. We'll see them in a couple of weeks. Out to left center, and over goes Cespedes to get it to retire Revere. 1-2-3 inning for Bastardo, and that takes us to the 7th inning stretch with the Mets down 9-1. By New York State Health Department. Talk with your doctor for help quitting, or call 1-866-NY-QUITS. By Nationwide, speak with Rich Grillo in Massapequa or John Camara in Hicksville today. And by GMC, see the pros at your tri-state GMC dealers. GMC, we are professional grade. SNY's Super Slow Motion is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz tri-state dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Couple of balls not caught by the Mets in that 7-run 3rd inning. Well, Steven Strasburg got that 4th time at bat, but that's going to be the last act for Strasburg tonight. He is out of the game after 6 innings and 113 pitches.
Surprising that Dusty didn't use one of his bench just to get him an at bat.
And Oliver Perez makes his 2nd appearance in the series.
Well, Oliver has found a home in the bullpen the last few seasons.
Nice to be a left-hander.
Right.
And a side armor.
Ben Revere moves from center field to left field. Michael Taylor comes in to play center field. Chris Heisey will come in to play center. So Worth and Harper will get the rest of the night off. And Clint Robinson is in at first base. And Stephen Drew is at third base. So a bench clearing by Dusty Baker. There's Robinson at first. And Drew is at third. So Zimmerman and Rendon both come out of the game.
They go on from here to Miami and play the Marlins down south. And good. Always on a good away day to have a blowout. You can rest your regulars. They're not going to get until late tomorrow morning, technically.
Kevin Plawecki leads off in the home seventh against Oliver Perez and takes a pitch outside. So Dusty pulling everybody off his bench except his backup catcher, Jose Lobaton.
You should have just done who stayed in the game.
Murphy,
Espinosa,
Ramos, Revere. Slapped down to first base. Robinson right at the bag. One easy out for Perez in the bottom of the seventh. And now Juan Lagares is going to bat for Alejandro De Aza. De Aza was batting in the 9 hole. So with the lefty in the game, Lagares will hit for him. Jerry Blevins getting ready to pitch the 8th inning for New York. Lagares started in center field last night, went 1 for 4.
Whoa, jeez.
Is it just me, or does the bugle get louder every game? Lagares lifts one to deep left field. Back goes Revere onto the warning track to make the catch.
A little bit towards the end of the bat. Too quick.
Took his eye off the ball as he caught it.
No, just off the end of the bat. Enough.
So 2 quick outs for Oliver Perez. Now Curtis Granderson is going 0 for 3 tonight. So Strasburg went 6 innings, allowed 1 run, 6 hits, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. Lowered his season ERA to 2.80 and a better than even chance of going 7-0 to start the year. Meanwhile, for all the conversation that we've had about Harvey's struggles and Colon's struggles last night, whither the Mets offense?
Well, it's not so much, had good pitching against him here, good 3 quality starters. What was alarming to me on the road trip was they didn't take advantage and did not score in Colorado.
They scored 9 runs in 3 games in Colorado, which was the fewest the Mets had ever scored in a series there. Now, some of their young pitchers look pretty good. John Gray had a good start against them in that first game on Friday night. But your point is well taken. Normally you go to Colorado to get well, and the Mets did not. In the last game in LA, they had Kershaw, so
right.
He was just unhittable. Granderson strikes out to end the inning as soon as Ramos makes the toss to first. 1-2-3 for Oliver Perez, who's still jumping over foul lines. 9-1. That's a move. Yoenis Cespedes to left field. Juan Lagares, who pinch hit, stays in center field, and Jerry Blevins will pitch the 8th inning for New York.
Well, we have 3 pitchers for the Mets who are going back to back. Brett, then Bastardo, and now Blevins, who all pitched in yesterday's ball game.
Michael Taylor, who just came in for defense, will bat for the first time. Taylor's had 1 at bat in this series, struck out on Tuesday night. Taylor was playing center field every day when Ben Revere was on the disabled list for 27 games, and Taylor did not fare well.
He definitely struggled.
Chris Heisey is on deck, then Daniel Murphy in the 8th inning for Washington. And Blevins gets ahead 1-2. And the curveball wraps around the plate for strike 3. So Taylor out on strikes.
Good breaking ball by Blevins. That's his signature pitch.
Back door.
Back door.
Like Trinan up in the bullpen for Washington. It was a beautiful pitch, but it wasn't a strike, was it?
Kind of curved around. You know what? 9-1.
Yeah.
8th inning getaway day. These umpires got to go away too.
You're saying it's a swing the bat time?
Yes,
again?
it is. It's a Frank Pulley time again.
I loved watching Frank Pulley umpire because he would almost call the strike before the ball crossed the plate.
Yeah.
With that little punch of his.
Well, he had that kind of kangaroo punch at you.
Oh, that short right hand when he punch you out like a boxer.
That's right.
He had a Rougned Odor right hand.
That's right.
I never got offended by that.
He was the umpire behind the plate in my first big league start, Frank Pulley.
Good umpire.
Very good.
Frank took charge. A lot of good umpires in the National League back in our day.
Back when there were National League
Right.
umpires.
Yep.
No such thing now.
Back when there was a National League. I mean, the leagues only exist in the standings. They don't even have league offices anymore. Everything's under the auspices of Major League Baseball. There are no league presidents anymore.
They took over.
I mean, they wonder why nobody cares about the All-Star game anymore. Well, you introduce interleague play and don't have real leagues. Why would anybody care who wins the All-Star game?
Yeah, you'd see.
Well, here's the result of our Toyota Twitter poll. And not surprising that 80% of you say that the Phillies are the most surprising team in the majors this year.
Well, it's because the Phillies are ahead of the Mets right now.
Well, the Phillies have the day off today.
So 3% are only thought that Toronto, who was 1 game away from going to a World Series last year, is struggling like heck.
Kind of like the Gallup polls, Keith. Unscientific.
That's right.
And well, I guess we already determined it's not early anymore. Brera gets in front of it and throws out Heisey 2 away.
Oh, Cincy.
The Reds are just their pitching is just dreadful.
Oh, well, they have a lot of young pitchers starting games, and their bullpen is historically having one of the worst first quarters of a year you've ever seen.
I can just see Marty Brenneman up there in the booth.
What did they have? 24 straight games. Yeah. Their bullpen allowed a run. Here's Murphy, who's had a big day. 2-run homer in the first inning that put a dent in Harvey's night. Later doubled in the 4th. 2 for 3 on the night. And the curveball blooped into shallow right. In comes Granderson to slide and make the catch. And that retires the side. Nice play by Curtis in a 9-1 game. Beautiful slide. That'll send us to the bottom of the 8th. recap of this Mets-Nats series, plus discuss football in May
Already?
as the Jets and Giants get ready for their first OTAs. That's organized team activities for you uninitiated. That's Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5, only on SNY. There's your Ram Mets box score. That's with 6 hits tonight, 6 hits last night, 4 hits the night before. It has been an offensive brownout for the Mets. SNY Super Slow Motion brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, your tri-state Mercedes-Benz dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Blake Trinan will come out of the Nats bullpen to pitch the bottom of the 8th.
Well, we've seen Trinan at his best, and he has a filthy sinking fastball. One of the few players that ever come out of South Dakota State University.
A jackrabbit.
Nice. Good at those.
David Wright 1 for 3, a broken bat single his last time up. Eric Campbell out on deck to pinch hit with the pitcher spot up next. And then Yoenis Cespedes will get in a bat here in the bottom of the 8th. And David pops one up into shallow right. Heisey out there. One hands it, one away. Now Campbell has been getting a lot of playing time of late. Started last night at first base, went 1 for 4. Started 7 of the last 10 games before tonight. Big number 41. I thought that was retired.
I thought the perm was retired.
Oh well.
Who was the singer for Mountain? Ronnie?
Oh, had the big
Mississippi Queen?
Yeah, he had the big hairdo like that, but longer. Gosh, Leslie
West?
Yes. Good call. Good call.
Maybe that was Leslie. Campbell has to get a new bat. That's what Trinan, when he's at his best, will do. He can eat up right-handed hitters. They've clocked his sinker at times at triple digits.
Campbell lays off the slider, and it's 2-1. They tried Trinan as a starter when he first came up, but he has proved to be much more suited to the bullpen. Addison Reed is going to pitch the 9th inning. Boy, I'd be shocked if the Mets don't make a move for a reliever between now and tomorrow, with all the bullpen they've had to use the last 2 nights.
And there's Trinan right there. It's his problem. He gets a little wild.
So Campbell's on with a 1-out walk. And now Cespedes, who has a single and a walk tonight. Cespedes has been the lone bat in this series who's had consistently quality at bats for the Mets. 3 for 7 with a home run in the series. Started the night leading the National League in slugging percentage. Can you imagine where this offense would be without him? Terry Collins was asked that question last night. He said, where would we be without him? We'd be nowhere. And, you know, there was a long period of time this offseason when it looked like the Mets were going to have their offense bereft of Cespedes. Looked like for a while as though he might go to the Nationals. They offered him a 5-year deal. But for whatever question there might have been about Cespedes and the streak that he had last year and whether he could replicate that, I think the first quarter of this season has answered that question.
He's a star. That's all there is to it. He can play this game. All facets. A complete player. How's that for a set of saying? I like that. It's an old school term. Instead of these
5-tool player. He's a complete player.
Is there a difference? And then the question is, are there only 5 tools?
It's true.
Can your brain be a 6th tool? Are there intangibles that can be a 6th tool?
So when you say complete player, it gives you a little wiggle room. You're covering all your bases, right?
You're saying he can do it all.
So we used to call Kevin Mitchell in '86. We used to call him All World.
That's
right. Do it all.
Like Lloyd Free.
World be free.
Kevin gave me the greatest nickname. He called me Maximilian. That's right. And I said, why'd you call me that? And he goes, because you max out and you make $1 million.
That's perfect.
That was great. I loved it.
Cespedes goes down swinging on the slider. That's 12 strikeouts for Nats pitching tonight. Drive around the majors presented by Cadillac. Junior Guerra, since he went into the Milwaukee rotation, has been their best starter. Struck out 11 today against the Cubs. Brewers are coming to New York. Jeff Locke gets the win for the Pirates, his 2nd victory.
Got to hope that the Mets can take advantage of the Brewer pitching staff. It's the 2nd worst in the National League, just ahead of Cincinnati.
So the Cardinals put up another 10 tonight.
I know. And they're just holding on.
Their offense has been spectacular.
They're hitting home runs.
Duda makes contact for the first time tonight, but Trinan handles the comebacker, and that retires the side. On to the 9th we go at Citi Field as the Nats prepare to take the rubber game. Go to the 9th. Matt Reynolds comes in to give David Wright the final inning off. Eric Campbell, who pinch hit, stays in left field. And Addison Reed will pitch the top of the 9th.
Boy, what a difference in games for Addison Reed. 2 nights ago, he had one of his best innings. The 8th inning came on after Syndergaard and had a couple strikeouts in a 1-2-3 inning.
So you're saying this is a lower leverage situation?
This is the lowest leveraged situation.
Jonathan Papelbon looks like he needs an inning of work, so he's getting ready for the bottom of the ninth. Clint Robinson up for the first time, leads off in the top of the ninth and takes a strike from Reed. I wonder in these situations, it's 9-1, it's the ninth inning, the likelihood of coming back in the game is almost nil. You've had to run through a lot of bullpen the last 2 nights. Would you consider putting a position player, an Eric Campbell or Matt Reynolds, somebody like that on the mound?
I do. I mean, I love when, not love when you're getting blown out, but you love when, I'd love to watch an outfielder or infielder go in there and pitch.
I'm with you.
The fans love it too, I think, in these kind of games.
Save your bullpen, save an arm.
Robinson flies one to left, and Campbell over toward the line, and he picks it off, 1 out. I have the greatest recollection of it was a game in, I think it was in 1990. Mets were playing at Wrigley Field. I think the Mets won the game 19-8.
Yeah.
And in the 9th inning, the Cubs brought in Doug DeCenzo, an outfielder, little guy, the pitch. And the Wrigley Field crowd gave him the greatest standing ovation. It was really one of those great moments that you're talking about, where the fans just really take to the idea of a special little guy like DeCenzo going up on the mound and trying his hand. Here's Stephen Drew up for the first time, takes a strike. Let's check in with Steve with the Brewers coming in tomorrow. Steve.
Gary, Ryan Braun's missed the last couple of games for the Brewers with back stiffness. They hope to have him back this weekend, though. The Mets may hope the opposite, though, because he's off to maybe his best start in his career. .364 batting average right now, insane OPS. He's hitting .436 with runners in scoring position as well. But the one thing that really stands out about his start is how well he's hitting when 2 strikes are on him. He's hitting .270 with 2 strikes and a .343 on base percentage. Last year, by comparison, just .191 in those counts. So right now, as hot as you can be is Ryan Braun.
Drew pops one up, and Campbell comes on to call off Cabrera and stays with it for the 2nd out. Well, the other guy who's been hot for the Brewers is Jonathan Lucroy. Nice to see him back healthy and producing again.
He had 3 straight games with a home run.
Campbell comes in and plays left field to get 2 balls back to back.
Ball will find you, right?
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Wilson Ramos, who had a 2-run single in the Nats' 7-run 3rd inning, which pretty much put the competitive part of this game to rest. Matt Harvey last just 2 2/3 tonight, gave up 9 runs, 6 earned on 8 hits, shortest outing of his career, most runs allowed in any start in his career. And since then, Logan Verrett, Antonio Bastardo, Jerry Blevins, and now Reed just killing time. Cabrera throws out Ramos, 1-2-3 inning for Reed, and that sends us to the bottom of the 9th with Papelbon coming on for the Nats.
Well, you see Pap's the numbers so far this year. 0-2. He's blown a couple of saves. But first batter face good. Strikeouts pretty good at an advanced stage. He doesn't strike him out like he used to in a Red Sox uniform.
Neil Walker will lead off in the last of the ninth. Walker's 2 for 3 tonight as 2 of the Mets' 6 hits. Papelbon trying to finish it off for Steven Strasburg. Oliver Perez and Blake Trinan each worked an inning to push it to the ninth. And the first pitch misses away for ball 1. You know, after the scene that everybody in baseball saw last September with Papelbon's hands around Bryce Harper's neck in the dugout, I think the assumption on the part of a lot of people outside the Nationals organization was that there's no way that the Nats could bring Papelbon back this year, and yet here he is, and everything seems to be okay.
And he did apologize.
Yeah, so
I'll give him credit for that.
I think there was more behind the scenes happening with Papelbon and Bryce Harper than we know that kept him here in Washington.
And if you remember, Harper was the team was going bad, and Harper was in a little bit of a doldrum. And I think it was a good thing that happened to Harper. I think it woke him up. I really do. And I think I bet you that Dusty Baker, when spring training started, I bet you that Dusty called Harper into the office and said, hey, look, you're no longer the 19, 20-year-old kid. I want you to lead this team. You're MVP. You had 41 home runs last year. You are a veteran now. Don't look at yourself at this. I want you to be the leader of this team.
Cabrera on deck, Plawecki behind him. And Papelbon has a strikeout to start his night. That is 13 strikeouts for the National staff tonight.
Fastball right there. 88. Snuck it past Walker.
So 1 out now. Cabrera, who's 1 for 3, drove in the lone Met run back in the second inning. Well, unless the Mets have a monumental rally in their back pocket, they're going to slip to 4 games over 500. This will be their 6th loss in the last 7 games. And the Nats, who came to town a game and a half in front, will leave town 2.5 in front of the Mets. Nats have a weekend series in Miami, while the Mets stay home to play the Brewers. Coming up tonight after the postgame show, it's Geico Sports Night. Jose Reyes close to his return with Colorado. Next, and Jeff Hornacek close to a contract. And when does the Harvard guy come back? All on Geico Sports Night tonight after the postgame.
Papelbon's had some kind of career, though, hasn't he? 360 saves now.
Came up with Boston in 2005. A 6-time All-Star. And this is with a splitter. 3-1. Kevin Plawecki on deck. And he walks Cabrera. And so the Mets have a 1-out base runner, and the diehards feel hope. Plawecki 0 for 3 tonight. 1 for 9 in the series after a very encouraging offensive road trip for Kevin. And he gets one in the air to left. Revere toward the line. And that's the 2nd out. So the Mets are down to their final out of the night. Juan Lagares coming up for the 2nd time. Lagares just missed one last time up, flat out to the warning track in left field. Well, the Mets Mets spent a lot of time in April beating up on some of the weaker teams in the National League. They've had a little tougher time against the elite. They get a series with Milwaukee this weekend, a chance to beat up on a pitching staff that has struggled. Cabrera takes second on defensive indifference. But then they go right back into the soup. They go to Washington for 3 next week. Then they come home to play the Dodgers. Then the White Sox are here. So there are a lot of difficult games on the horizon.
You know, a lot of times when I look at these teams also, you know, if you're in line with is Kershaw pitching, is Chris Sale pitching, you know, that makes them exponentially tougher.
Well, the Mets will see Strasburg again next Tuesday. They'll see Gio Gonzalez again on Monday. So those are 2 pitchers who pitched very well against them in this series that they'll have to face a second time in a week.
And they'll face either Roark or Ross.
Hmm.
2-1 to Lagares, and he goes after the slider. 2-2.
This tells you how different it is for Papelbon to pitch now. 2-1, you always would see the cheese in the day. Now a little breaking ball. 2-1.
And how the game has changed too. Pitchers, you know, 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, big lead, 9th inning. Here's a fastball. Hit it.
Full count. You mentioned Chris Sale. Just went to 9-0. Oh, complete game 4-hitter, 9 strikeouts against the Astros. Snapped a 4-game losing streak for the White Sox.
Stopper.
9 starts, 9-0. 3-2. And Lagares strikes out, and that ends the game and the series. Nats take the rubber game behind Steven Strasburg on a very rough night for Matt Harvey and the Mets. The Nats win it easily, 9-1.
Well, the story will be Matt Harvey tomorrow. Didn't get through the 3rd inning. Gave up 9 runs, 6 of them earned. Only a couple of punch outs, and his lowest moment as a Met.
And then not much offense again from the Mets. Only got 6 hits. Strasburg really impressive with his outing. It was absolutely fantastic. Went to 7-0, 10 strikeouts in 6 innings.
So the long-awaited first series between the Mets and the Nationals goes to Washington. Mets won the opener behind Syndergaard. The Nats take the last 2 with ease as they win tonight 9-1. We'll come back with more from Citi Field in just a moment.